There are 30 seconds left on the clock. I run down the court during a fast break. The ball carrier drives hard to the basket and collides with the defender. Both of them fall hard to the ground, and the ball goes out of bounds. I blow my whistle without signaling. My heart is racing. Behind me, I hear, "Are you blind? That has to be a foul." I don't call a foul. My mind goes blank, and I do the only thing I can think to do. I hand the ball to the team going in the other direction, and the game continues. As I run past the bench, both coaches pepper me with questions. I am so uncomfortable. I stare back at them, expressionless, which only makes things worse. It is my first week as a basketball referee, and I'm starting to wonder why I signed up for this. Despite my size, I have been in love with basketball since I could walk. When I was a child, my mom would hear, "She is small and she's got a lot of energy. Why don't you try gymnastics?" I spent every minute I could at the gym. I was shy, but somehow I had the guts to play with the boys. One of my childhood best friends and I even attended an all-boys basketball camp. My dream was to play Division I basketball. My parents and some wonderful coaches in my life encouraged me to go for it. The limitations of my size became motivation. After high school, I attended the University of Nebraska to study architecture. Despite playing pickup every chance I had, I missed basketball. When the season started, I went to a women's game with some of my friends. As we walked back to our dorm room, I felt a deep longing for the game that had defined my childhood. I missed being part of a team. In that moment, I allowed myself to wonder, what if my basketball dream is not over? My gut told me to do something about it. So I drafted an email to one of the coaches to ask about how to try out for the team next year. I feared the inevitable rejection, but what did I have to lose? I hit send. After 36 hours passed, I had put it out of my mind. I received a message back from the coach asking me if I was available on Tuesday. She told me to bring my shoes. I tried out for the team on Tuesday, attended my first practice on Thursday, and on Friday, I was on a plane to Ann Arbor to play the Michigan Wolverines as part of the Nebraska Cornhuskers women's basketball team. Go Huskers. There was not even time to order me extra small warm-ups. I still cringe that I wore the only sweats I had in my closet. They were blue and gold. Over 13 years later, in March of 2019, I attended the Summit League basketball tournament, a popular college tournament held in Sioux Falls each year. It happened to be a challenging time in my life. I was experiencing health issues and feeling lost after leaving a stable career as a licensed architect to pursue a gut feeling that it wasn't my forever. I do some of my best thinking while watching basketball. For me, it is meditative, like driving or running, but with lots of shouting and whistles. I had never felt a lack of drive before, but at that time in my life, I felt unmotivated and directionless. I knew I needed to reconnect with something that brought me joy. As a player, I was a point guard. The point guard position is often referred to as the coach on the floor. Point guards are responsible for communicating with the team, remaining composed under pressure, and setting their teammates up for success. In basketball and in the workplace, there are point guards on every team. As a former point guard, when I watch basketball, I like to watch in between plays. How is each team communicating? Who is pulling everyone together? Do they credit teammates for a good pass and take responsibility for mistakes? While watching one of the games, there was one team that stood out. I was inspired by their confidence, communication, and composure. Despite their impressive skills, this team had 0 fans cheering for them in the stands. It was the team of all-female referees. At that moment, I decided I wanted to become a basketball referee. I got that familiar gut feeling again. I drafted a message to ask one of the refs about her experience. Once again, I feared rejection, but what did I have to lose? I hit send. A week later, she responded and invited me to attend her referee camp that summer to learn the basics. Yes, such things exist, and I eagerly accepted her invitation. 1 month later, I started to gain experience at the youth level as I worked towards my goal of reffing high school. During my first few months as a ref, I felt anxious almost 100% of the time. Like now on this stage, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I couldn't whistle and signal at the same time, and my communication was horrible. Before each game, my blood pressure would rise before I even got into the car to go to the gym. Yet, something kept bringing me back. Each game, I put on this uniform and I chose one thing to work on. With each game, I felt myself getting better. The skill I struggled most with was communication. In a matter of seconds, a referee is challenged to interpret a play, make a judgment, whistle, signal, and communicate with the entire gym concisely and calmly. Because I struggled to make a judgment, whistle, and signal at the same time, everyone was often left confused. I would lightly blow my whistle, put my hand in the air like this. Even though I wasn't communicating it, my poor mechanics were communicating it was kind of a foul, which conveyed a lack of confidence. There were subtle ways that my body language impacted my credibility as a ref. Things I did I was not even aware of. The struggle to communicate was incredibly frustrating, especially because I considered myself a good communicator in my work. Why was this so hard for me? I realized that the decision-making I was faced with as a referee was different than what I experienced during a typical day at the office. The time frame was compressed and the pressure was compounded. So I did what my colleagues told me to do. I practiced in front of the mirror at home. As my confidence in my decisions and coordination between my whistles and my signals improved, I started to enjoy myself. One of the tricks of making good calls is to allow plays to fully develop before making a judgment. This is far more difficult than it sounds. It requires a combination of just the right amount of patience and decisiveness. A slightly late call is better than the wrong call. In the Midwest, in general, we don't love conflict. The only thing we like less than conflict is direct conflict. A referee's job, ultimately, is to manage conflict. As leaders, we encounter conflict every day. Referees and leaders must be comfortable making decisions under pressure and dealing with the fallout from those decisions directly. When I first started officiating, I didn't know how to manage conflict, especially from coaches. Some coaches yell at you simply to get in your head, not because they disagree with you. My initial reaction was to ignore them, like I had trained myself to ignore the crowd. It doesn't work very well. Later, I learned a more productive approach. Listen, communicate, and move on. Initially, I became a basketball referee to be around a sport I love, support youth athletics in my community, and make a little extra money. I soon realized it was much more than a decent hobby. It is a challenging and rewarding profession, one that provided me with a space to practice, fail, and improve my leadership skills on and off the court. Additionally, I have never had a job where I received such direct and timely feedback. Before, during, and after games, referees continuously provide each other with suggestions for improvement. There isn't time to wait for an annual review. We must get better before the next play. It made me wonder, how much growth are we missing out on by not being more direct with one another in the workplace? How much more could you and your team grow if you learned to embrace your discomfort? According to the National Officiating Survey, the average age of a sports official in the US is 53 years old. Of the more than 17,000 surveyed, 6% were female. I hadn't considered being a referee myself until I watched the all-female team of refs 4 years ago. It took me seeing myself in them to even consider it a possibility. When you put on stripes, you automatically become part of a community. I have met referees with day jobs as farmers, pastors, teachers, engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs. The best refs have a deep passion for the game, love to learn, and enjoy supporting the student athletes. The person who taught me to play basketball even came out of reffing retirement to teach me about reffing. The photo on the right is my dad and I after we reffed together for the first time ever this season. Becoming a referee made me realize that as I had gotten older, I had become far too comfortable. Where was the Sara who showed up for boys' basketball camp despite the fear and discomfort? As we become adults, there are fewer opportunities in our everyday lives to go out of bounds. We are beyond the typical milestones that naturally put us in uncomfortable situations, and we settle for traditional forms of learning. We give in to the limits imposed upon us by others and by ourselves. We become more and more concerned with staying in bounds. Can you relate? I think back to the year I played basketball at Nebraska. I only played one season. I had to focus on my degree. It was really hands-on. I played 6 games, and I have a 100% college shooting record. It was 1 for 1. But as anyone who knows, or as anyone who has been part of a team knows, in the end, it is not the individual stats that matter. Going out of bounds gave me far more than a childhood dream. It changed my perspective forever. I was part of a diverse team for the first time in my life. My teammates were from all over the world and represented different races, religions, sexual orientations, and socioeconomic backgrounds. I also experienced being a bench warmer as opposed to being a star player. I learned that I don't need to be in the spotlight to lead and contribute. Growth occurs when we challenge ourselves to go out of bounds. Pushing ourselves to the point of having doubts is the only way we can get to somewhere new. We need to normalize being uncomfortable. There are 30 seconds left on the clock. I run down the court during a fast break. The ball carrier drives hard to the basket and collides with the defender. Both of them fall hard to the ground. The ball goes out of bounds. I blow my whistle and I signal a foul. My heart is racing and I repeat the advice experienced refs have given me. Breathe and slow down. I calmly approach the scorer's table and communicate verbally and visually the number and jersey color of the player who fouled. Behind me, I hear, "Are you blind?" As I run past the bench, the coach of the team who fouled peppers me with questions. I look him in the eye and I calmly explain what I saw. The defender was in position when contact occurred. The game ends and the teams shake hands. Players from both teams give me a fist bump and thank me for reffing. My heart swells. When was the last time you went beyond your comfort zone? I challenge you to listen to that gut feeling and follow it, wherever it takes you. You don't have to be good at something the first time you try it. Remember this: growth happens out of bounds.